which is Srimad Bhagavatam class. May I know who are joining the call today?
हरे कृष्ण भगवती वसुधा माता जी दंडवत प्रणाम शिला प्रभुपाद की जय गुरु महाराज की जय तुलसीदासी संसालो हरे कृष्णा
Hare Krishna, Bhakti Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, Mataji, for joining Bhakti Sangha conference call. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण
Hare Krishna Bhagavati Vasudha Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, and all the glories to the assembled devotees. This is Manjari Leela Devi Dasi from Naperville. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Manjari Leela Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, Mataji, for joining Bhakti Sangha conference call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga and all the assembled devotees. This is Yashamati Priya Devi Dasi from Chicago.
Hare Krishna, Yashamati Priya Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, Mataji, for joining Bhakti Sangha conference call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj, all glories to somebody. This is Mohini Lakshmi from Detroit.
Hare Krishna, Mohini Lakshmi Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, Mataji, for joining Bhakti Sangha conference call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Bhagavati Vasudha Mataji, all glories to Prabhupada and Guru Maharaji. My humble obeisances to you and all the devotees. This is Krishna Kumari Devi Dasi from Raleigh.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Kumari Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, Mataji, for joining Bhakti Sangha conference call. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Is there anyone who would like to introduce on the call today?
Hare Krishna Bhagavati Vasudha Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. My Dandavat Pranams to all the assembled devotees. This is Susmita from Canada.
Hare Krishna, Shushmita Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, Mataji, for joining Bhakti Sangha conference call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Bhagavati Vasudha Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Vinita Gandharvika Devdasi from College Station, Texas.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, Mataji, for joining Bhakti Sangha conference call. Hare Krishna. I welcome all of you once again. Thank you everyone for joining today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we are really fortunate to have His Grace Gauranga Darshan Prabhuji to enlighten us on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam. Before I hand over the call to Prabhuji, I would like to hand over the call to Prabhu. You are there?
Yes, ma'am.
Take over. Hare Krishna.
Introduction, Mataji, we can go straight ahead to the class.
Krishna Prabhuji, please accept all of our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. We are really fortunate to have you on this Bhakti Sangha conference call. We are just done with the introduction, Prabhuji. You can please take over the call. Hare Krishna.
Can someone read the translation and sloka? I just came from another class.
Sure, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 7th chapter, verse 23. Dehastu sarva sanghato jagatasthur iti dvidha atraiva mrigya purusho neti netityatat tyagjan. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. There are two kinds of bodies for every individual soul. A gross body made of 5 gross elements and a subtle body made of 3 subtle elements. Within these bodies, however, is the spirit soul. One must find the soul by analysis, saying, this is not it, this is not it. Thus, one must separate spirit from matter. Purport. As previously stated, Swarnam yatha gravas suhemakara kshetreshu yogestad abhignyam apnuyat. An expert in the study of soil can find out where gold is and then dig there. He can then analyze the stone and test the gold with nitric acid. Similarly, one must analyze the whole body to find within the body the spirit soul. In studying one's own body, one must ask himself whether his head is his soul, his fingers are his soul, his hand is his soul, and so on. In this way, one must gradually reject all the material elements and the combination of material elements in the body. Then, if one is an expert and follows the Acharya, he can understand that he is the spiritual soul living within the body. The greatest Acharya, Krishna, begins this teaching in Bhagavad Gita by saying, Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatra na muhyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 13. The spirit soul possesses the body and is within the body. This is the real analysis. The soul never mixes with the bodily elements. Although the soul is within the body, it is separate and always pure. One must analyze and understand his self. This is self-realization. Neti, neti is the analytical process of rejecting matter. By expertly conducting such an analysis, one can understand where the soul is. One who is not an expert, however, cannot distinguish gold from earth, nor the soul from the body. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Am I audible?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Just give me 1 second. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimmirandhasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Today we are discussing from the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, from the 7th chapter. In this chapter, Prahalad Maharaj is giving his teachings to his classmates in the school of Shanda and Amarka. In the previous chapter, Prahalad Maharaj began his teachings, a 5-year-old boy giving such profound spiritual teachings to his 5-year-old friends. So the knowledge transmission in spiritual circles doesn't depend on age, caste, gender, nationality, or the kind of background one belongs to, the dynasty. All these are external. Even a 5-year-old child can speak profound spiritual truths to 5-year-old children when there is a depth in one's own devotion. And when someone has received that spiritual inspiration from a bona fide and potent source, just like when the transmitter is potent and the signal is great, then the receiver receives that signal, potential signal from the transmitter. The whole signal transmission becomes very seamless. We used to study signal transmission in our masters, in our BTech, analog and digital signals and all that. So transmitter and receiver, two things are there. Here, a potent spiritual master, Narada Muni, has transmitted so much knowledge to Prahlad Maharaj when Prahlad was within the womb of his mother. But there was no problem. The transmission was seamless. The inspiration just came from Narada Muni to Prahlad Maharaj very seamlessly, because receiver is enthusiastic to receive and the teacher is also enthusiastic to teach. Same thing is happening now. When Prahlad became 5-year-old boy, he started sharing all his spiritual knowledge with his friends, and friends are also receiving nicely because they are very loving and affectionate towards Prahlad. They in fact loved Prahlad's teachings more than the teachings of their teachers Chanda and Namak. So that's how Prahlad completely captivated the minds of his dear friends, and he's making them devotees. In the previous chapter, in the 6th chapter, Prahlad Maharaj gave them several teachings about bhakti. Then these kids had this question. They asked, dear friend, you have been studying in the school of Chanda and Amarka along with us since your childhood. But how do you know all these things? Our teachers never taught these things to us, and we never saw you going to some other school. How do you know all these things? Then Prahlad Maharaj said, when I was within the womb of my mother, the Devatas came to kidnap my mother and kill me as soon as I was born. That was their plan. But Narada Muni intervened and he stopped the Devatas from killing me. And Narada Muni gave shelter to my mother Kayadu in his own ashram. And Narada Muni taught some spiritual secrets to my mother. But my mother could not retain that knowledge because she was very anxious. She was thinking about my safety. She was thinking about my father's safety. She was anxiously waiting for my father Hiranyakashipu's return back to the kingdom. So she could not focus on the teachings of Narada Muni. Although a potential spiritual teacher is speaking profound spiritual truths, when the receiver, when the hearer is not attentive to the teachings of such a teacher, the hearer will not get much spiritual benefit. But Prahlad Maharaj was attentively hearing, although his mother was not attentively hearing. So that's how I came to know about all these facts. So then he started speaking Harikatha. Earlier he emphasized on the process of devotional service in the previous chapter, and now also in this chapter he will be emphasizing on the process of bhakti. But before that, he is describing the nature of soul. How the soul doesn't undergo any changes despite the body undergoing so many changes. The body undergoes several changes, 6 transformations like birth and little existence and growth, transformation, dwindling and death. These are various stages of the body. But despite all these bodily changes, the soul is never subjected to any change. The soul is always the part and parcel of the Lord, always Satchidananda. But the glory of the soul is covered because of being entrapped in a material body due to material desires. So Prahlad Maharaj describes several qualities of the Lord and the part and parcel of the Lord, that is the soul. And now in this current shloka, Prahlad is talking about 2 bodies. The soul has two bodies, two kinds of bodies. What are they? One is the gross body made of earth, water, fire, air, ether. That is the visible body with all the limbs like hands and legs and the eyes and the ears and mouth and nose, etc. These are the visible limbs of the body. This is one part. But internally, there is another part, another body that is called the Sukshma Sarira, or the invisible body, or the subtle body, gross body and subtle body. And what are the constituents of that subtle body? Mind, intelligence, and ego. So these are the two kinds of bodies. And Prabhupada elaborately writes in the purport that we have two kinds of bodies, and he elaborates on this. Now, both bodies are material. The soul is spiritual. But there is a way of spiritualizing these bodies. How do we spiritualize the material body? Let's begin with the subtle body. The subtle body has three constituents: mind, intelligence, and ego. Mind stores all the emotions, feelings, desires, and thoughts. That's what the mind does. Then intelligence does all the rational analysis. Intelligence does all the logic and reasoning, planning. All that is done by intelligence. Mind only has the tendency to desire something or think of something or have some emotions and feelings. But the mind does not have the ability to differentiate between what is a positive thought and what is a negative thought. What is a worthy desire and what is an unworthy desire. What is a positive emotion and negative emotion. Mind does not have that ability to discern. And the discernment or differentiation or discretion, viveka, is the quality of intelligence. Mind has a desire. Whether the desire is good or bad, beneficial or harmful, is decided by the intelligence. Intelligence takes care of the decision making. And what does the ego do? Ego is a sense of identity. In the material realm, all the conditioned souls have false egos, unhealthy egos, not the real egos. Ego is a sense of identity. But most of the conditioned souls in this material world are roaming around in this world with a false sense of identity, that they are these bodies. False ego is that ingredient in the subtle body of a living being that makes one identify oneself too much with this body. False ego keeps one in bodily complex, bodily conception. People start thinking themselves to be bodies and not souls. People start thinking themselves to be matter and not spirit. That kind of conception is called false ego. But everyone has a spiritual identity as an amsha of Krishna. Mamaivamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Everyone's spiritual identity is to be a servant of Krishna. Jivera swarupahai Krishnera nitya das. To be das of Krishna, to be humble, menial, dedicated, unflinching, unalloyed servant of Krishna is our real identity. But forgetting that real identity or the true ego, the conditioned soul embraces a false sense of identity that is called false ego. And that false ego leads to pride, greed, arrogance, exploitative tendencies. When a conditioned soul, when a soul starts identifying oneself with this temporary designation as a king, for example, then as a king, he starts expecting people to serve him, to dedicate to himself, to follow his instructions, and so many other things. So, this over-identification with one's designations and roles and upadhis, that is false ego. One needs to come out of it. How does one come out of it? By engaging oneself in the process of devotional service. When one starts practicing spiritual life, when someone starts practicing Krishna consciousness, then people will stop identifying themselves as kings or proprietors or masters or enjoyers in this material world. Rather, they will begin to identify themselves as servants of Krishna. At least intellectually, they will understand that they are servants of Krishna. And to completely realize that they are servants of Krishna and to constantly act on the platform of being servants of Krishna, it will take some time. But at least a sadhaka bhakta should have an intellectual conviction that I am not a man, I am not a woman, I am not an Indian, I am not an American, I am not a king, I am not a servant, but I am part and parcel of Krishna. I am servant, but I am servant of Krishna, not servant of any material master in this world. I am servant of the supreme spiritual master, that is Krishna. So one has to identify oneself like that. So with that identity, with that intellectual conviction, the kind of emotions and feelings and thoughts and desires one has will become spiritual. And intellectually, I am convinced that I am servant of Krishna. And intellectually, I also understand Krishna Tattva, how Krishna is great. Mattaha parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mahi sarvamidam protam suttare maniganaiva. By studying Shastra, I understand Krishna's Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela. I understand Krishna's Tattva. I understand Bhakti Tattva, Rasa Tattva, Leela Tattva, and all other Tattvas with my intelligence. Then my intelligence is getting spiritualized. So with that understanding coming from Shastra, I start looking at myself as a servant of Krishna, at least for a few moments in a day. If not every day, at all moments. If I start identifying myself as servant of Krishna and start acting on that platform, then my ego is getting spiritualized. I'm embracing my true ego, true identity as servant of Krishna. Thus, ego is getting spiritualized. By studying Shastra and understanding Krishna's Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela, and one's own identity, our intelligence is getting spiritualized. Then we start having emotions for Krishna, feelings for Krishna. We start desiring to render service to Krishna. All our thoughts are surrounding on service to Krishna. How do I increase my bonding with Krishna? By studying Shastra and doing so many other things. So that kind of spiritualization of mind will take place. When the mind, intelligence, and ego are spiritualized by understanding and realizing one's connection with Krishna, then the body also starts, the gross body also starts acting on a spiritual platform. Although the senses are made of matter, bhumirapo nalo vayu khammano buddhirevacha ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakritirishtada. So although the body is made of earth, water, fire, air, ether, the material elements, because the subtle body is getting spiritualized by following the spiritual culture and the process of Krishna consciousness, the gross body, the gross senses also will start acting on that platform, spiritual platform. It's just a matter of time. Prabhupada writes in the 5th canto purports. It's just a matter of time before one gets a spiritual body. Internal subtle body is getting spiritualized, and the gross body is acting on a spiritual platform by engaging the senses in service to Krishna. Like tongue is engaged in glorifying Krishna, ears are engaged in hearing Krishna Katha, nose is engaged in smelling the fragrance of tulasi leaves that are offered to Krishna's lotus feet. Jihve kirtaya keshavam muraripum cheto bhaja sridharam pani dvandva samarchayachyuta katha shrotradvayatvam shrunu Krishnam lokaya lochanadvaya harer gacchangri yugmalayam jighara ghrana mukunda pada tulasiyam murdhanna madhokshajam. In this way, one engages one's jihva, tongue, in glorifying Lord Krishna. Jihve kirtaya keshavam, and one engages one's legs in going to Krishna's temple, hands in rendering services to Krishna. Ambarish Maharaj did all this. Savai vanaha Krishna pada ravindayor vachamsi vaikuntha gunanuvarnane. Tarau Harer Mandiramarjanadishu Srutim Chakara Achyuta Satkhatodaya. Even Ambarish Maharaj also engaged all his senses in Krishna's service. Even when Krishna liberated this Nalakuvar and Manigriva, who were lying there as Yamalarjuna trees in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj, Nalakuvar and Manigriva offered a prayer to Krishna. He said that Vani Gunano Kathane Shravano Kathayam. Vani means our ability to speak. Guna Anukathane. Let us engage our speaking abilities in glorifying your wonderful qualities, Krishna. Vani Gunanu Kathane. Shravano Kathayam. Let us engage our ears in hearing your pastimes. Like that, engaging all the senses of this gross body in Krishna's seva is the aspiration of Nalakuvara, Manigriva, Ambarish Maharaj, our Mukundamala Stotra's author, our Kulashekar Alvar, and many other wonderful devotees. Constantly, the gopis of Vrindavan are also engaging their senses in Krishna's service. Yadohane vahanane mathanopalepa Prenkankanar bharudito ksanamarjanadau Gayanti chaina manurakta dhiyo shrukantlo Dhanya vrajastriya urukramachitta yana. Again, the gopis are engaging their body in Krishna's service. Yadohane, they are milking cows as a part of Krishna's service. Vahanane, they're cleaning their grains as a part of Krishna's service. They want to cook sweet rice Krishna. Mathana, they're churning buttermilk for Krishna's seva. Yashoda Mata gets up early in the morning on Deepavali day and she starts churning butter for Krishna, engaging her hands in Krishna's service. Mathanopalepa, they are cleaning their houses, they're decorating their homes with rangolis. They are using cow dung to smear their walls and their floors. That is in Krishna's service, so that Krishna can come to their homes and steal butter in their homes. They're making butter so that Krishna comes and steals butter at their homes. Like that, all the gopis of Vrindavan are constantly engaging their senses in Krishna's seva. Mathuravasis are engaging their senses in Krishna's seva. Dwarkavasis and Hastinapurvasis, Vrindavanvasis, everybody is eager to engage their senses in Krishna's service. And in fact, the purpose of the senses is achieved by engaging them in Krishna's seva. Hrishikena Hrishikesa Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. What is sadhana bhakti? To engage our senses in Krishna's seva so that eventually we develop bhava for Krishna. Bhava, or emotion, is the result of sadhana. Sadhana bhakti culminates in bhava bhakti. By performing sadhana bhakti sincerely, one develops bhava for Krishna, emotions for Krishna, loving attachment towards Krishna, rati for Krishna. That happens by engaging senses in Krishna's service. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, developing emotions for Krishna, engaging mind in Krishna's seva is the highest form of bhakti. Mayyeva mana adhatsva mayi buddhim niveshaya. Mayyeva mana adhatsva means to constantly think about Krishna. Man means mind. Krishna speaks about engaging mind in his seva several times in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna said in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Maya veshya mano yemam nitya yukta upasati. Mai aveshya mano yemam, engaging mind in Krishna's service. Absorbing mind in thinking of Krishna's nama, rupa, guna, lila. That is service. So that's a very high platform. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Manmana, always think of me. Bhava madbhakto, become my devotee. So becoming a devotee of Krishna is like engaging your ego in Krishna's service, spiritualizing your ego, identifying yourself as a bhakta, devotee of Krishna, and not as an enjoyer of this material world. not as a manager of this material world, not someone who has some great designations in this material world. No, don't identify yourself with that. Become a devotee means you are spiritualizing your ego. Man mana is spiritualizing the mind. Bhava mad bhakto, spiritualizing your ego. Mad yaji, mam namaskuru. Yaji means to offer archana, worshipping Krishna. Mam namaskuru means offering obeisances to Krishna. That is purifying your senses, your body, spiritualizing your body. You are purifying your body. So, in this way, when we try to follow the instructions of Krishna as he has given in Bhagavad Gita, we slowly, gradually spiritualize our senses, spiritualize our mind, spiritualize our ego, spiritualize our intelligence, and we enter the spiritual world. So this is how we need to perform bhakti. And while doing so, we need to constantly meditate and discuss about Krishna's qualities, names, and pastimes. And we should also repent for the mistakes that we have done. We should also hanker to intensify our absorption in Krishna's service, physically, mentally, intellectually, and on the level of identity also. So repentance comes in the heart of a devotee because of our association with this material world and the material modes. Because of the influence of Maya, the conditioned souls have been engaging in so many bad activities, so many materialistic activities. So that engagement should increase the guilt in the living being, increase a feeling of repentance in the person. That's why, and while repenting for one's bad activities, materialistic activities, one should also be ready to face the reactions for one's material activities. So repentance and experiencing the reaction for the wrong activities, parallelly engaging our body, mind, and words and senses in Krishna's service, that will purify a condition. So Brahma said in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, Tatenu kampam susamikshamaano bhunjana evatmakritam vipakam hridvagvapurбhirvidadhan namaste jivetayo muktipade sadaya bhak. He said that tatenu kampam susamikshamaano, a devotee constantly engages oneself in Krishna's seva and waits for Krishna's grace, Krishna's mercy. Tate anukampam susamikshamaano. They wait for Krishna's seva, Krishna's mercy, and they do some analysis, introspection, self-introspection, going deep into their own minds and their own hearts and digging deep. What's there in my heart? Lust, envy, pride, greed, or love for Krishna? Why am I suffering? Is it because of Krishna's mistake, Krishna's indifference, or Krishna's neglect, or because of my own past deeds? So, Samikshamano, by doing such analysis, self-analysis, they will understand that Atmakritam Vipakam, all the problems and sufferings and tribulations that I'm facing in this world are just results of my own materialistic activities which I have done in the past. They have that conviction. They don't blame anybody for their suffering. They don't say that because of him I'm suffering, because of her I'm suffering, because of the Lord's indifference I'm suffering. The Lord has absolutely no mercy. How can he make me suffer? Although I'm such a great devotee of Krishna. So people have this. Why me? Out of all the people, why me? Why I have to suffer? So they have these questions. But a genuine devotee never blames Krishna for one's own suffering, but a devotee analyzes one's own heart, one's own past activities, and comes to the conclusion that I am facing these reactions as a result of my own past misdeeds. And what am I supposed to do? I need to wait for Krishna's grace. Tate anukampa. Let me wait for Krishna's grace. And while waiting, in this waiting period, what am I supposed to do? Hridvagva purbhir vidadhan namaste. Hrid with my heart, vak with my words, vapu with my body and all the senses. Namaste. Let me offer my obeisances to Krishna. Let me surrender into Krishna. Let me serve Krishna. Hridvag vapur bhir vidadhan namaste. Jivetayo mukti sapade sadaya bhak. Such a person is eligible for liberation. Not exactly liberation. Such a person is eligible to be reinstated in one's own constitutional position as an eternal humble servant of Krishna. So we have to endure various tribulations in this world because we have done a lot in the past. Although apparently in a particular situation we may be innocent, we are not at fault, but still we face some trouble, some problem. So what's the logic? If I'm not at fault, why should I suffer? The answer is you have done so many other things in the past, and the reaction may not come instantly always. Sometimes there's a delayed reaction. Sometimes you do some mistake today and you will get reaction after 10 years or 20 years or in the next life. It's like that. Nothing is happening randomly. And Krishna's management will never go wrong. Human management may go wrong, but the divine management, Krishna's management will never go wrong. Krishna will not allow a devotee to suffer unnecessarily. Krishna will not allow any soul, any living being to unnecessarily suffer for what he or she has not done. We bring upon ourselves so much of unnecessary suffering by misusing our minute independence, by wrongly channelizing our little free will, little desiring ability. So if only we can maneuver our minute independence in such a way that we engage our senses in Krishna's service, we use our mind in thinking about Krishna, we use our intelligence to understand Krishna Tattva, and we identify ourselves as servants of Krishna, then we can terminate all the tribulations in this material world, and we can become eligible to be at his lotus feet. That's what is the right utility of the subtle and gross bodies that we have. When we have access to certain facilities, we need to utilize those facilities for a good purpose. As Prahlad Maharaj is saying in the shloka, we have access to certain facilities. What are the facilities that we have access to? Gross body and subtle body. So we have a gross body and we have a subtle body. So we need to use that gross body as a facility to render services to Krishna. We need to use that subtle body also as an opportunity to serve Krishna. So thus, when the subtle body and gross body both are engaged in Krishna's seva, then that will ensure our advancement in spiritual life towards the lotus feet of Krishna. That's what we can do with these two bodies. Prahlad Maharaj is saying that we all have two bodies, gross and subtle bodies. So the utility of these gross and subtle bodies is engaging them in Krishna's service. Prabhupada quotes in the purport. Dehinosmi yatha dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatrana muhyati. Prabhupada writes in the purport that one should do some analysis, neti, and all that. So one should use one's intelligence to analyze one's own body. Am I hand? So I think this is Prabhupada's pastime. Once Prabhupada called a child and asked, "What is this?" Child at hand. Whose hand? My hand. Are you hand? No. What is this? Head. Whose head? My head. Are you head? No. What is this? Leg. Whose leg? My leg. Are you leg? No. What is this? Dress. Whose dress? My dress. Are you dress? No. The child himself said that this head, this hand, this leg, this body belongs to him. The child is claiming that it is his or her body, and he is not the body. So all of us can do this little analysis that to identify oneself different from the body. We can read the Chatushloki section of Bhagavatam, second canto of Bhagavatam, Chatushloki portion, where we can understand how the soul is different from the body. and how the super soul and super soul exists. That's a very elaborate analysis. But anyways, so we need to first identify soul, spirit soul separate from matter. Then we stop identifying ourselves with the matter and we start embracing our spiritual identities. So in that spiritual identity, my job is to render service to Krishna. Ayi nanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavambhuto kripaya tava pada pankaja sthita dhuli sadrusham vichintaya. This is the prayer of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Sikshashtakam. I am Nanda Tanuja Kinkaram. I am a Kinkara. I am a servant of Nanda Tanuja Krishna. But Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavambhuto. I have my fallen soul rotting in this material existence. And Kripaya, oh Lord, please show some Kripa upon me. Tava Pada Pankaja Sthita Dholi Sadrusham Vichintaya. Let me engage in the service of your divine lotus feet. Let me be a dust particle at your lotus feet. That does not mean devotee wants to lose one's existence to identify oneself as a dust particle at Krishna's lotus feet. That only shows that the devotee is enthusiastic to always stay at the lotus feet and serve the lotus feet. Because feet are the lowest part of the body. And if you're under the feet as a dust particle, that means you're humbling yourself. So our identity is Kinkara. Whenever we deviate from this consciousness of being a servant of Krishna, whenever we don't act or think in accordance with our real constitutional position as a Kinkara, servant of Krishna, whenever we become a little proud of our external and other qualities, that's when we displease Krishna. Let's take the example of the gopis of Vrindavan. The gopis of Vrindavan constantly think of themselves as servants of Krishna. There's absolutely no moment where they deviate from that consciousness of being a servant of Krishna. But there's one moment in the Rasa Panchadhyaya where the gopis felt little proud. And this is transcendental pride. This is not the pride which you can find in Kamsa or Duryodhan or Shishupal, etc. This is a totally divine and transcendental pride because of getting a special privileged opportunity to be so close with Krishna, to be very intimately connected to Krishna during the Rasa Leela. Krishna just played his flute under Vamsivat, and all the gopis became attracted to Krishna's flute song, and they came, and Krishna said, please go. It's not good place for you. And the gopis said, no, you cannot speak that cruel words. We want to be with you. Then Krishna smiled and started dancing with them. And every single gopi felt that she's most special woman in the entire creation, which is actually their humble mood, that because they got intimate connection with Krishna, so far they have been starving due to lack of Krishna's association. Finally, when they got association of Krishna, they felt very fortunate and happy, slightly proud. When that feeling entered the gopis' minds, Krishna disappeared from there. Then Krishna, when he disappeared from their visibility, all the gopis started searching for Krishna everywhere. In their intense separation from Krishna, they started enacting Krishna's various pastimes. Then finally they came on the bank of river Yamuna and they started singing their song of separation called the Gopi Gita. In that Gopi Gita, the gopis sing one thing. Vraja janartihan virayoshita Nijajanasmaya dhvamsanasmita Bhaj sakhe bhavat kinkarismano Jalaruhananam charudarshayam. Vraja Janartihan, oh Krishna, you are very popularly known as someone who can destroy the distresses of all the Vrajavasis. Vraja Jana Artihan. Veera Yoshitam, you are the hero of all women, all the gopis. Nija janasmaya dhvamsanasmita. Very important point. They said that Krishna, Nija jana means your own devotees. Who are they? We. We are your devotees. You are your jan. Nija jana. Smaya means pride. Dhamsana means to destroy, to vanquish. Krishna, you don't have to disappear from the scene. You don't have to close your darshan to us to destroy our pride. Just stand in front of us and smile. If you just smile, our smaya, our pride will be destroyed. Very interesting point here. Krishna doesn't like pride in his devotees. Even on a transcendental plane, when the gopis of Vrindavan become slightly proud for a brief moment, Krishna disappeared. Of course, we should never consider that pride of the gopis equal to the pride of the conditioned souls. It's totally a different plane. And even when Krishna disappeared from the scene, and the pretext of humbling them, he actually revealed their deep devotion and he gave us access to the Gopi Geet. So, but the point is, Krishna never likes pride in his devotees. So the gopis are saying that Nija janasmaya dhamsanasmita. Krishna, just by your mere smile, he can destroy, he can vanquish the pride of your devotees. You don't have to disappear from us to destroy our pride. Please come back. Please come back. Now we come to this, our original position as your kinkara. Bhaja sakhe bhavat kinkarismano jalaruhananam charu darshaya. Bhaja sakhe, we offer obeisances to you, O friend. Please come back. Bhavat kinkari hismano. We are your kinkari. We are your maid servants. Right? Earlier, we thought of ourselves to be the most special gopis. Very fortunate women in the entire creation for having such intimate association with you. But now we are just humbly saying that we are your humble menial servants, maid servants. Please come back to us. So, the gopis are teaching all of us that we should always be in the mood of a humble menial servant of Krishna. And this emotion of being a servant of Krishna is common amongst all the devotees of Krishna, whichever rasa they belong to. The gopis are saying that we are your servants, although they are in Madhurya rasa. Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mata, they tell Uddhava that they are servants of Krishna, although they are in Vatsalya rasa. The Gopas of Vrindavan, they claim that they are servants of Krishna. They actually render service to Krishna by massaging his feet, by fanning him, by offering their lap for Krishna to lie on as a pillow, although they belong to Sakya rasa. And of course, servants of Krishna, those who are in Dasya rasa, they are naturally in that mood of being a servant of Krishna. In this way, devotees of all rasas consider themselves servants of Krishna. This emotion of being a servant of Krishna is common amongst all the exalted devotees of Krishna and even amongst the avatars of Krishna. That's why many avatars are called Bhakta avatars. And even Krishna also wants to embrace this emotion of being a servant of Krishna. That's why he appears in the form of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, we are not these bodies, this gross body and subtle body, and all the designations that we acquire due to being in these bodies, they're all temporary. Body itself is temporary. Whatever designation that we are getting through this body is also temporary. Whatever relationships that we are making through this body, they are also temporary. Whatever identities that we are embracing due to this body, they are also temporary. We are not brahmacharis, we are not grahasthas, we are not kshatriyas, we are not brahmanas, we are not Indians, we are not Americans, we are not men, we are not human beings, we are not animals. We are servants of Krishna. That's what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying 100 times in throughout Chaitanya Charitamrita, and especially during Rath Yatra, he said Naham vipro na cha narapatirnapi vaishyo na shudro. Naham varni na cha grahapatirno vanastho yatirva. Kintu prodyan nikhila paramananda purnamrutabdher. Gopi bhartuh padakabalayor dasa dasa anudasaha. I am not a Brahmana, I am not a Kshatriya, I am not a Vaishya, I am not a Shudra. I am not a Brahmachari, I am not a Grahastha, I am not a Vanaprastha, I am not a Sannyasi. For all practical purposes, while living in this world, all these designations have their own validity, but that is temporary. Temporary validity. Sometimes you get visa. That visa is temporary visa. Only for 6 months you can use that visa. Only for 1 month you can use it. Only for 10 years you can use it. Different countries have different protocols. It's not a permanent visa. One can permanently stay in one's own country. And what is that permanence? That is so-called permanence under the umbrella of temporariness. For entire life, one can stay in one country, the birth country or whatever, or when they have their necessary license or green card, whatever you may call. So that is the license for them to stay in that particular country as a resident. But that also only for one lifetime, not life after life. But life after life, we are servants of Krishna, isn't it? Our citizenship in a particular country is limited only to one lifetime maximum. And within that one lifetime also, people keep changing their citizenships. But our servitorship as a servant of Krishna is eternal identity, right? The identity that we acquire as an employee of a particular company is only for few years. The identity that we acquire as a species, as a human being or an animal or a devata, etc., that also only for a particular lifetime. Even if somebody becomes an exalted devata, that identity remains only for one manvantara period. Only for one manvantara period, somebody can be a devata. That too, if during that manvantara, if no demons come and attack the devatas, they are little there. Otherwise, at any point, some demons will come and attack the devatas, and the devatas are on roads again. They lose their identity. Again, Vishnu has to come as an incarnation, or Brahma has to intervene and reinstate them in their position as devatas. Within one manvantara also, it's not permanent. Like that, we are embracing so many temporary identities, but the real identity is Kinkara. Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram. That's our permanent identity. Mama Janmani Janmanishware Bhavatad Bhaktir Ahaitu Kitvai. To perform unmotivated, uninterrupted, unflinching, loving, selfless devotional service unto Krishna, life after life, is our permanent occupation. And being a servant of Krishna is our permanent identity. Although we have two bodies, our identity in connection with these two bodies is temporary. But we have a permanent identity as a servant of Krishna. Let us embrace that. Let us embrace that identity. The gopis are saying, Nija janasmaya dhamsanasmita bhaja sakhe bhavat kinkaris mano. We are your kinkaris. Gopis are saying we are kinkaris. So how do we embrace that identity permanently? How do we come to that stage of constantly identifying oneself as a servant of Krishna and not anything else? By sincerely following the process of bhakti that has 9 items. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnoho, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. These are the 9 processes of bhakti, which Prahalad himself said in the previous chapter. We are in 7th chapter, he said that in 5th chapter. So Prahalad's teachings have a lot. His teachings to his classmates have a lot of philosophy. His teachings to his own father, although only few shlokas he spoke in front of his father, they are all profound shlokas. Tatsadhu manye suravarya dehinam sada samudvigna dhiyama sagrahat hitvatma patam grahamandhakupam vanam gato yadharimashrayeta. He said, my dear father, I consider this as the best thing for all human beings to do. What is that? Go to Vrindavan. Give up this soul-degrading materialistic household life and vanam gatoya dharimashrayata. Enter the forest and take shelter of Lord Hari. and work for the pleasure of Lord Hari. Sam siddhir haritoshanam. That's what Prahlad said earlier. Then in the next meeting, he said, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnoha, Swaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. He said these 9 processes are the real engagements for a devotee. And intelligent people engage themselves in these 9 processes. Hear about Krishna. Chant the holy names of Krishna or glorify Krishna. Glorify Krishna's name, Rupa, Guna, Lila, Kirtanam. Smaranam, remember Krishna. Padasevanam, worship Krishna's lotus feet, serve him. Like that, by following the 9 processes of bhakti, or 5 potent forms of bhakti, or the 64 limbs of bhakti, 5, 9, 64, we have multiple figures. Follow anything and identify yourself as a servant of Krishna. When we identify ourselves as servants of Krishna, the material tribulations and temptations can never touch us. But as soon as we identify ourselves with any other designation other than servant of Krishna, we are overwhelmed with so many negative and material feelings and anxieties and difficulties. The only emotion that keeps us away from all material tribulations, that makes us totally unaffected by all the material temptations and tribulations, is when we tightly, permanently, eternally embrace this identity of being a servant of Krishna, and Prahlad is actually in that identity. Therefore, although Hiranyakashipu is throwing him from mountain cliffs or making elephants trample on this little tender child, 5-year-old boy, or making snakes bite him, Prahlad was unaffected. Because he never identified himself with this body only. He never thought that I'm a body, 5-year-old child. He did not become emotional. He thought, if Krishna wants me to undergo this experience, let me undergo. No issue.
In real life? Yes.
You can keep yourself on mute, whoever is that. So there is an eagerness and enthusiasm and an intense, deep desire to embrace that original identity, permanent identity as a servant of Krishna. Although Prahlad is saying we have 2 bodies, these 2 bodies are insubstantial. These 2 bodies are impermanent. But these 2 bodies, although they are material, although they are temporary, they give us great opportunities to revive our real identity as servant of Krishna. At any situation, in any situation, we have that choice. We have that ability or opportunity to make a choice to serve Krishna. So, if we choose to render service to Krishna, in whatever situation we may have, whatever may be our facilities, we may have material hands, material legs, material eyes, no problem. Let me use these material senses, which ordinarily have no capability to understand Krishna. Let me use that very material senses in Krishna Seva. One day he will show me. Ataha Sri Krishna Namadi na bhavet grahyamindriyaihi sevonmukhehi jihvadau swayameva sphoratyada. These material senses have no capability to understand Krishna's Nama Rupa Guna Leela. But these very material senses can be engaged in Krishna's service, and Krishna himself will be revealing himself to us out of his kindness and affection. Therefore, although we understand that we are not these bodies, we should also understand that these bodies are important tools, important instruments which are available to us to revive our eternal connection with Krishna. I need to maintain this body nicely. I need to clean this body nicely. I need to properly maintain the body with good health, so that with this body I can engage in Krishna's service and reach Krishna, and I will discard this body. I don't, when the body becomes useless, then I don't need to be attached to this body anymore. But as long as I have access to this body, knowing very well that this body is the medium through which I express my devotion to Krishna, these senses are very much needed for me to perform different sadhana elements, let me take care of this body, but without any attachment to the body. So this is the life of a devotee in devotional service. So of all the faculties that we have to connect with Krishna, our mind or our heart is the primary faculty. Krishna says, I quoted this shloka sometime back, Mayyeva mana adhatsva, means engage your mind in me, always connect with me. That is called smaranatmika bhakti. If you cannot do that, the next step is mananatmika bhakti, where you engage your intelligence in Krishna's service. Mai buddhim niveshaya. With buddhi, you understand Krishna's tattva, Krishna philosophy. So when we understand Krishna tattva, Krishna philosophy with our intelligence, that will build our conviction muscles, right? Mayyeva mana adhatsva mayi buddhim niveshaya. Nivashishvasi mayyeva ata urdham na samshayaha. So when you engage your mind and intelligence in Krishna's service, you will definitely be with Krishna. Na samshayaha, there is no doubt in it. And after that, Krishna talks about the third level, abhyasa rupa bhakti, engaging your senses in Krishna's service, body in Krishna's service, so that we utilize all the faculties that we have in Krishna's service to eventually come to the stage of developing bhava, emotions for Krishna. So Mayyeva Manadhatsva is engaging mind in Krishna's service, Smaranatmika Bhakti, which is done on an emotional platform. Then Mayi Buddhim Nivesha is understanding Krishna Tattva, which is done on an intellectual platform. Then engaging our senses in Krishna's service is Abhyasa Rupa Bhakti, which is done on a physical platform. So body, mind, words, and intelligence, all of them should be engaged in Krishna's service. And Srila Prabhupada has given us a regimen where every day in the morning we chant the holy names of Krishna for a couple of hours, chanting 16 rounds at least. And that chanting is like trying to focus our mind in Krishna's service. So mind has some engagement. And after that, we have a Bhagavatam class to hear, where we use our intelligence to understand Krishna Tattva, Krishna's Nama, Rupa, Gunalila, and pastimes and the scriptures. So our intelligence has some engagement. And whole day we have multiple services to render. So we do Abhyasa Rupa Bhakti. We are doing Smaranatmika Bhakti, Mananatmika Bhakti, Abhyasa Rupa Bhakti. We are using our mind, intelligence, and senses, all of them in Krishna's Seva, under the umbrella of Krishna consciousness as given to us by Prabhupada. So by doing so, we eventually embrace our eternal identity as servants of Krishna. Now we are doing service to Krishna as a practitioner. We are practicing to serve Krishna by engaging our gross and subtle bodies in his seva. Yashoda Mata, when she is churning buttermilk for Krishna, she is engaging her hands in Krishna's service, mind in thinking about Krishna, words in glorifying Krishna. Body, mind, words, all three are engaged in Krishna's service. But she is doing it very spontaneously on a very high platform. She is a Ragatmika Bhakta, Nitya Siddha devotee of the Lord. But an average soul, spirit soul, also has an opportunity to develop such absorption in Krishna consciousness with body, mind, words, and intelligence. For that, we need to practice. We need to desire. We need to desire to engage our body, mind, words, and intelligence in Krishna's service. And we need to actually engage in the practice of using our senses and mind and intelligence in Krishna's service. And eventually, we'll spontaneously be able to do it. Effortlessly, we'll be able to do it. And that's our desire. That's our aspiration. Without any distractions, let me always serve Krishna. So these are a few thoughts based on this little shloka that talks about the two bodies that we have. Our Prahlad Maharaj is saying that we have two bodies, gross and subtle body. But these two gross and subtle bodies, all the material and all the temporary, they give us great opportunities to revive our spiritual identities as servants of Krishna. Thank you very much. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for this very, very wonderful class. You covered up so many things from the basics of gross body, subtle body, and practicing, and then it becomes Raganuga till highest level. You instructed and convinced us to be in this path enthusiastically. Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. There are a few questions. Would you like to take it, Prabhuji, for some time? Okay. Divya Mataji, can you please ask your question?
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for your such enchanting lectures as always, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I had two questions. Can I ask you two questions, Prabhuji? Okay. Prabhuji, one question was you said that we should always think ourselves as servant of Krishna. So, Prabhuji, if we are is it okay? Is it also not an egoistic thing to always say that I am a servant of? Sometimes I'm sorry if I'm asking you a silly question. Like I may feel that I'm proud that I'm devotee of Krishna. I'm proud of that thing is okay, Prabhuji, or is it also an ahankar only?
It all depends in what mood are we claiming that we are servants of Krishna. Sometimes somebody may claim that I am a servant of Krishna with some material pride, but sometimes one may claim so out of humility also. So the mood matters, the consciousness matters. Technically, we are servants of Krishna. That understanding should make us humble. We can humbly claim ourselves to be menial servants of Krishna rather than proudly claim ourselves. But there's a positive pride also. Pride has a positive note. Yes, I am servant of such a great master. Means you are taking pride in Krishna's glory, not your own glory. Right? So it all depends on the mood. I hope that makes some sense.
Yes, Prabhuji, very, very wonderfully you have explained. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, and one more question was from Bhagavad Gita. I wanted to ask you that I was attending one quiz and it was mentioned that Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Bhishma also. So is that true? Like I marked it false, but the answer was true. But I don't know. I haven't heard this. Can you put some light on that? Did Krishna speak Bhagavad Gita to Bhishma also?
Now, what is Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavan is Krishna, Gita means song. The song sung by God is called Bhagavad Gita. In that sense, whatever Krishna speaks to whichever devotee in whichever context can be called Bhagavad Gita. Whether Krishna spoke exactly the same shlokas that he spoke to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, to Bhishma also, I don't know. But if Krishna must have spoken some instructions and some spiritual principles to Bhishma, and if those set of words that Krishna spoke are called Bhagavad Gita, then there's nothing wrong in it. Like Krishna spoke a lot of teachings to Uddhava also, and we call it as Uddhava Gita. In Dwaraka, Krishna spoke Uddhava Gita. That Uddhava Gita is also ultimately Bhagavad Gita because Bhagavan is speaking that. In that sense, whatever spiritual instructions that Krishna gives to various devotees in various countries can be called Bhagavad Gita, but they may not be the same set of shlokas that he spoke to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you for your enlightening lecture and enlightening answers, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Very grateful to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Next, I request Achita Prabhu, you can ask your question.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu, for the wonderful class. So you were mentioning about being a servant of Krishna, right? I mean, but like our real identity is servant of Krishna. And in terms of getting to that level or that understanding is to do both gross level services and several level of services. So I was wondering if there is how do we divide our time into those kind of and how.
So allocating time to various devotional activities is to be prioritized by all the sadhaka bhaktas. As sadhaka bhaktas, we need to do some time management. to effectively utilize our 24 hours to enhance our Krishna consciousness. Chanting at least 16 rounds, if not more, is a mandatory thing, non-negotiable thing for us. So does mind get some engagement. And hearing some Shastra, studying some Shastra, discussing some scriptures is also very vital, especially when we have capability. Some devotees may be very simple, they come from simple background, they may not be very well educated. For them, they can chant and do some services and hear when others are speaking Harikatha. But those who are having some capacity to study the scriptures, they should use their time to, they should at least allocate some little time to study the scriptures nicely, Gita, Bhagavatam, and thus relish Krishna's Nama Rupa Guna Leela. So, and doing some services like contributing to some physical, practical service. It could be prasadam serving, it could be deity worship, it could be some other service, leading some prominent project under the umbrella of Krishna consciousness. So we need to allocate our time effectively. Essentially, the principle is avyartha kalatvam. Let me utilize all my 24 hours that I have in doing something or the other under the umbrella of Krishna service. It could be chanting, it could be hearing, it could be doing some practical physical service, it could be anything, but let me accept things that are favorable to my advancement in Krishna consciousness and reject things that are not favorable. It's easier said than done, especially when in this age of smartphones, but we should try to come to that commitment.
Yeah. Also, I was wondering, like, I mean, is one type of service more purifying than the other? Like, grass is more purifying than subtle, or is there any kind of distinction?
It depends on how much are we contaminated by material energy. And it also depends on the necessity or the need of the hour. Sometimes Guru wants us to render a particular service, and that rendering that specific seva will earn some great blessings of Guru, because that's the need of the hour. So that's our priority. So it's not that we need purification at all levels. Mind has to be purified, intelligence has to be purified, senses must be purified, ego must be purified. Therefore, physical services, chanting, study Shastra, all are required for us, because we need purification at all gross and subtle bodily levels. It's not that my subtle body is so pure, gross body is impure, or gross body is so pure, subtle body is impure. So I will only focus on this particular engagement. Not like that. We need purification at all levels. But in general, let's do as much as we can. For example, very old people are there. Physically, they may be little weak, they're tired, they get exhausted. They may not have so much of physical engagement. They may take up a simpler engagement which is not physically exhaustive. They may chant more rounds, they may study Shastra, they can share their experiences with devotees, all that. Some younger devotees are there, they may be engaged more in physical activities. So prasadam serving is there. Prasadam, big vessels have to be carried from kitchen to the prasadam serving area. Old devotees may not be able to do it. Younger devotees will be able to do it. It's the need of the hour. So we need purification at all levels, but it is subjected to few constraints of age, the need of the hour, requirement of the service, and other things. When we extend ourselves to the need of that service and be willing to do that service, be malleable and flexible and adaptable to the circumstances according to the need of Guru, Krishna, and Vaishnavas, that is purifying to us. Purification is required at all levels, but what brings that purification is blessings. And what brings that blessings is timely engagement in a particular service according to the need and mood of Guru, Krishna, and Vaishnavas. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Next, I request Shamagari Mataji, you can ask your questions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, all goes to Srila Prabhupada. Very, very awesome class, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Prabhuji, you were talking about Smaranatmika, Mananatmika, and Abhyasarupa Bhakti. So, which come first, Prabhuji? Like, I thought Abhyasarupa will come first because it's just a practice. We are doing it, and then it comes in the Smarana, and then comes in Manana.
Yes. First, in all general cases, first we need to begin with some physical services because that's more absorbing. We need to parallelly do all three, but an average immature sadhaka who is not yet sufficiently experienced or seasoned or purified will have to first begin with the senses. That's what sadhana bhakti is. So smaranatmika is at a higher level, bhava. But we need to engage our senses first. And by engaging senses, eventually mind will also come under control. Mind will start developing bhava for Krishna, feelings for Krishna. In devotional service, devotion comes before service in that string of words. But first, let's begin with service, devotion will come later. So begin with service, do some seva, then devotion will eventually manifest. That's what sadhana bhakti is.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very wonderful.
Thank you. We'll conclude here.
Yes,
Hare
sir.
Krishna. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila
Ki jai,
Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Ki jai.
Prabhupada
Pyo Vaishnave Namo Namaha.
Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Radhe Radhe.
Prabhuji Dandavat Pranam.
Radhe Radhe.
Jai.
Gauranga.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for your valuable
Ananda.
Prabhuji
presentation.
Dandavat Pranam.
Hari Hari Bol.